Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and in this one we're going to be carrying on with that little commission project that I'm working on. So for those who maybe not saw the first episode of Polymer, these miniatures are by a company called Warp Miniatures, and it's the Fellowship of the Golden Band. They're extremely stylised and a bit more sort of cartoony, very Moonstone-esque actually in the way the features and the cloaks and all the clothing's done. Very little detail, so you've got more area there to sort of express yourself and do cool things with highlights and whatnot. The idea of this little series is to just show you how I'm going ahead and painting these for this customer, and also just simple little tips for painting this sort of 28mm scale. So the process is going to be very similar to the Boromir one, except obviously different colours. So for this one it's Gandalf the Grey. It's a case of first of all blocking out all those major colours. So we're going to be doing grey for the majority of his cloak. His hat will be a mixture of blue and grey, and then picking out some of the finer details, so like some nice browns for the wood of his staff, white for the beard, little bits of hints of silver on the sword, and so on. All those little sort of details, picking them out. Same sort of thing with the skin process, and then it goes on exactly like we did with the Boromir, so a nice wash, which is where we'll pick up in a moment. So you can see here the grey of the cloak's all picked out nice and simple. We're going to work on the skin now. The hat was literally just a bit of blue with the same grey of the robe, just to dull it down slightly, because I'm trying to keep it as close to the some of the old Alan Lee artwork and the Peter Jackson films as I can. And again, just taking time, blocking out colours. If you make any mistakes, go back with the previous colour, fix it up, because it's all about the wash and the highlight layer that's going to make this punch a bit more. Now this little bit here on his face, he hasn't got much of his skin actually shown, but it's a bit fiddly, so I've had to go in, take my time, and I'll do a few little coats on this just to build up the opacity, because when we come to do the beard it's quite hard to get and frame it with this brush because of the small scale. But it's one of those with the detail, any details in any miniature like this, take your time with it and don't rush it. Right, so all the staff and the scabbard have been picked out, little bits of silver and brown, because as I say, these miniatures haven't got a lot of detail, but there's a lot of extra bits on what detail there is there. So there's a lot more of the folds in the cloth, and Gandalf's beard's over, large and over exaggerated and things like that. Same with the features and the fingers and whatnot. So there's more area to paint those cooler details and make them pop a bit more without being flooded with lots of little things like belts and pouches and whatnot. So again, simple sort of method, blocking out the beard now. So with this I'm using dark warm grey on my Pro Acryl range, just blocking it all out, taking my time. And this one, it did take a long time to get this done and get this done right. There's a few times where I made mistakes. I had to go back in with original colours, just because of the way the beard flows and everything. And this is so whereas Boromir had like the red tunic as the mainstay, this is the sort of focal point I want on this miniature. When you think of Gandalf, it's his big beard because he's a wizened old wizard. So this is where we'll be spending a lot of time building up layers and just make sure I get really good coverage. And I'd rather do 2 or 3 thin layers and build up opacity than one thick layer and lose some of this really nice sculpted detail on these miniatures. Right, so the wash with this one, because of the white beard, the dark wash that I normally use, like the one I used on Boromir, would be a bit too harsh. So what I'm doing is I'm actually mixing it 50-50 with some of the sledge sauce from Sonic Sledgehammer Studios. His nice little sort of unifying wash that he uses, just to thin it down a little bit and also just make it run into the recesses a bit more, because it's got a lot of that medium in the actual blend. Also so it doesn't stain as much, because I don't want the beard to be too heavily stained. We are going to pick it out with some really nice highlighting and edge highlighting later on, but I don't want it to be stained brown, which it can happen with my other wash mix that I use. So same again, going over the whole miniature, taking my time. If I see it pooling anywhere, I'll just wick it off with the brush as it's drying, and just making sure that I'm hitting every single detail. It's going into all those little sort of folds and little bits of sculpture on the miniature, and it just makes all those little areas pop, ready for the highlight layer. So again, this is the main part of with these videos, what I'm trying to get through, and hopefully showing people that it's a really simple way of doing these 28mm, and it's this step in particular. So once it's all washed and dulled down a little bit, you go back in with those base colours and you build up those highlights. We can add lighter colours to build up more of a highlight as we go on, but this first initial step, it just starts to add a bit of contrast, and it makes those deeper shadows look darker, the highlights look brighter, and it just gives a really nice variation, and it's a quick and simple method. You could just do this step and leave it at that. With these miniatures I'm doing a few extra little steps and some little bits with the faces just because it's for a customer. But yeah, really nice. The beard, you can see here, has stained a little bit, which is a bit frustrating, but we're going to go in and fix that with a brighter highlight to offset it, and the finished the result isn't too bad considering. Right, so for the beard, just to make it pop a bit more and sort of undo the mistake I made there with the wash where it's tinted a bit too much, I'm just going in with a brighter grey. So it's the dark warm grey as the original base coat, but I've added a bit of white in there, and you can see here with the way this sculpt is, we'll zoom in and you pick out all these little bits of detail, and it's a really joy to paint. It's really simple. You just got to take your time and don't speed it up. You know, make sure you're hitting those areas, just work on your brush control, and just enjoy the process. Don't worry too much about, am I hitting everything the way I should? Just pick out those little details. And here it is, all done. I really like this miniature. I think it's come out quite nice. The colours are really cool. I mean, Gandalf's I think he's just a fantastic character anyway. But this in particular, this miniature, with the way it's done, with the sculpting. So you know, you've got like over details on all the robes and stuff, and the hat, the huge beard that's flowing, and the big gnarly staff. It was just an absolute joy to paint. As I mentioned in the Boromir video, so I may not be necessarily filming all of the Fellowship being painted. There's a couple others, the main heroes I want to work on, but you'll see the finished product when it's all put together on the nice display base, and we're going to get everything unified. I hope you're enjoying it anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.